to be talking majorly on cracking the ICAN exams, proven strategies to pass at first attempt. I mean, for this session, I will be your anchor stroke host, and my name is Isaiah Bayomi. I would be joined by Simeon Aleke, who is going to be the key speaker for tonight. It's going to be a very quick session. We're not going to spend that much. We are keen at providing suitable strategies, right, that will help us pass our exams at first attempt, especially for guys that are taking the ICAN exam for the first time. So this is a very big opportunity for you to take home some strategies that will help you in the forthcoming exam. So without wasting much of our time, I think it's the right time for us to start the session. So I'll be calling on Aleke Simeon. So a quick background, Aleke Simeon is the lead tutor for the center. I mean, he has been in the business of taking like an exam and also advisory service for quite a long time now. So he has the proper arsenal to provide us with good strategies and advice that would help us in passing our ICAN exam well. So, Aleke Simeon, I don't know if you are currently on the call.
Yes, thank you, Isaiah, and good
Okay.
evening,
Yeah.
everyone. And I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we
I'll
can see your
just
screen now.
Okay, thank you. And guys, anytime I ask anything, if you need to confirm, just give me some reactions and, we write on. So it's going to be a very insightful session. And just stay tuned, don't allow network to disconnect you. I think we are also at capacity at the moment on the call, but if for any reason you drop off, you can also join us on YouTube while we continue this session. Okay, so like Isaiah rightly introduced, it's majorly for those that are looking to clear their papers at first attempt, and of course more sessions to come to capture some other categories. But um let's start by looking at why it is actually important for us to pass our ICAN exams at first attempt, or as early as possible. One very first point we need to highlight is faster career progression. So the way it works is ICAN consumes a lot of time, and sometimes you're dedicating quality time to get yourself ready for this exam. So you're probably sacrificing time that you should actually use to put certain level of effort in your workplace, maybe to even get a double promotion, or even to take on more professional opportunities like professional exams and all of that. And it's slowing you down. The more time you spend writing ICAN, the more other things suffer, including your career as well. So it is actually extremely important for you to pass your ICAN as early as possible. And that is one thing we need to bear in mind while we navigate this session. And another point really is increased confidence. So it's also, it's also very important for you to pass your ICAN exam, if possible, in one sitting or as early as possible, because this is connected to your confidence. So the more you pass, the earlier you pass, the more confident you have to even take on more exams or to speak on topics, right? In your workplace, with clients, or with your with the various stakeholders that you deal with in your workplace. So it is highly connected to your to your confidence level. And then one last point before we move on with the session, as to why you still need to pass your ICAN exam as early as possible, is that it saves your time and also the cost, right? So ICAN exam, even though it's paid in naira, is still money, and is still on the high side for quite a number of Nigerians, right? So The money you're spending to keep rewriting papers and all of those and paying tuition fees, it's something you can leverage to write more exams or to do more things, for yourself. So, and these are some of the key reasons why you actually need to pass your exams as early as possible. Okay, so we then let's move on to, before we dive properly into why we are here this evening. So it's also very important to, give a brief overview of what ICAN exam structure looks like and expectation for each level, right? So ICAN exam is divided into three levels: the foundation level, the skills level, and professional level. And one thing that is important for me to highlight at this point is that each level has differing expectation, different expectation. Foundation level, for example, is intending to bring everyone to a level of accounting graduate, right? Which is why, some starters would ask that, oh, if I study microbiology, if I study this course or that course, will I be able to start ICANN? The answer is always yes. Excuse me. Because foundation level is meant to bring everyone to that level where you are actually like an accounting graduate. It gives you that proper background. And then skills level, which is the level that almost everyone is expected to write, right? Except very few people, is that intermediate level where you are expected to acquire, skills and deeper knowledge in accounting and finance, right? And professional level, which is the final stage, is where you are tested on deeper understanding, application, right? Case-based scenario. And that is where you need to demonstrate that you are ready to be a chartered accountant. And of course, skills and professional level has the same exam structure where you've got 30 marks as compulsory question. You've got six other questions, session B and session C. Session B is 20 marks, session C is 15 marks, and for each of the questions, and you can answer two from each of those sessions, right? But for foundation level, is slightly different. You've got five objective questions, 20 objective questions, and then you've got six other questions that you need to answer for to be able to, move on. And that level is designed to give you a very soft landing, right? So for those of you that are in foundation level, it's actually a level that if you have a plan and you have your strategy put in place, you should actually easily pass that level in one thing. Okay, and that's basically it in terms of ICANN exam structure and what is expected from each level. Now let's begin to dive a bit deeper, really, and we will start by examining some of the critical reasons why people fail, ICANN exam, or why people, get to receipt for ICANN exam. The very first, point there on my screen is poor study plan, right? And think about it. Anything really, planning is very key. Like no matter what you're doing, planning is very key. If we, I mean, this session will not permit us to start looking at, theoretical foundation on planning, right? As an organization, as an individual, as an NGO, no matter what you are doing in life, to be able to get to certain level of success, planning is actually very key. So poor planning, poor study plan is one of the key reasons why people fail, right? And then another reason why people fail is not practicing past questions, because sometimes, even though we preach you understanding the concept, but past question actually give you a picture of what is obtainable in reality, and lack of proper practice of past questions or with past questions is actually a major problem for a lot of ICANN students, right? And then number three is weak exam techniques, right? This is very common, and this is something I'm really going to buttress in this session. Please stay tuned, because a lot of people have put in the effort, or they are putting in the effort, they have the plan, they have reviewed all the past questions for the past 20 diets, but the technique they are using or that they apply at the end of the day in the exam, makes the result to be, you know, to be bad at the end, right? And then another point number four, is poor time management. Poor time management. This is very, considering that ICANN exam is such that time would not always be enough, right? So it is always very important to stay on top of your time. And then, because of that, really is why a lot of people actually do fail ICANN exams. And last one, under the common reason why people fail ICANN exam, is studying without guidance. Sometimes, um, people have passed exams in the past and they want to probably rely on that capability, but sometimes working with a very reliable tuition house that you can trust the quality of what the lecturers are giving you, or even other platforms that you can leverage on, is actually very, very critical to passing ICANN exams sometimes, especially when it comes to passing as early as possible, passing in one sitting, right? So you probably want to plan, you probably want to practice questions, work with the right technique, manage your time well, and of course, work with a reliable tuition house or partner, right? And these are the common pitfalls, really, on a very high level. And what we are going to do in with the remaining time we have in this session is to dive a bit further as to how you can actually overcome these common pitfalls and excel in your exam. And trust me, this session is happening at the right time. It's happening at the time when MPT, as a tuition house, has just completed 10 weeks of lectures, or is it 9 weeks of lectures, right? And which is like point in the diet. And we are at a point that everybody, even as a tuition house, we are going to revisit to say, oh, where are we with covering the syllabus, so that we'll know how to double up, so that we'll know the things to change. If we, that's basically where we are. And as a student, you also need to do that reassessment. Where am I in terms of coverage, in terms of lectures, in terms of my strategies, and all of that? So it is very important to revisit all of those as we get into the second half, and then begin to prepare for mock exams and so many other things before exam, right? So, having highlighted these common reasons, we are going to navigate, few slides to walk through how you can actually avoid all of this. And I want you to look at all of these issues that we've highlighted, 5 points on your screen. You probably want to look at which one are you doing well on at the moment, and which one is a bit behind, so that when we're navigating the session, you're able to spot exactly what you need to improve on. Not when exam is 1 or 2 weeks and then you're running to cover huge gap that is not then realistic at that point in time. Okay. And I see a lot of hand being raised. After the session, after navigating through the session, there will be opportunity for you, to ask questions, and then we can, keep it at that. And of course, the platform is always there. We'll also be having a session on Sunday where all of you will be able to ask further questions. Okay, just before I proceed, if you can see my screen, just give me some thumbs, just give me some reactions. Okay. So for you that you're not seeing my screen, I think it is peculiar to your screen. Yeah, just check it out and then you will be fine. Okay, so let's start with the very first point, just to dive a bit further. We said number one, in terms of strategy to avoid all of this pitfall, really, is that you must have a game plan. And your game plan starts with having or creating a smart study plan, really. You need to have a plan. You must have a plan. You must have a plan. So, like we said earlier, this session is not for just everyone. It is for those who desire to pass. In fact, it is for those who desire to pass this diet, right? So for you to be able to do that, you must have a plan. You must create a study plan. And look at what we have on the screen. It says create a realistic timetable. It means you must look at yourself, you must understand yourself, and create what works for you. It needs to work for you. Somebody is probably not working at the moment, and they are able to create that time that enables them to go to library every blessed day. Good and fine, and that works for you, right? Obviously, you have all the time and you can easily cover the syllabus maybe 4 times, practice questions like three times each diet, and that's fine. Not everyone will be able to do that. You must also understand your own situation. You work 9 to 5, you navigate traffic to VI or some other state, that has traffic, and you know your reality. But within that, your reality, you still need to have a plan because you need to pass, right? So you need to create a realistic timetable. Oh, some people are very good at reading at night. Some people are good at reading during the day. You just need to ensure you work with a plan, right? You can come up with, oh, I want to read 2 hours a day, or it can even be based on lectures. If you are actively attending lecture, your own strategy can be that whatever we've done throughout this weekend, right? I want to ensure that it is fully covered before next weekend, so that when we are done with lecture, I don't have so many things behind. All I will now be doing is I'll just be revising for my mock exams. That can be a strategy. For some of you, maybe you didn't join lecture early, just create a plan. And of course, one of at MPT, we have body sessions, which is what we've hijacked, to hold this general session just for this week. And those sessions will still continue. And when you create your plan, you can check it out with your body, with the tutors that have been assigned to you. That, oh, this is my reality, this is the plan I have, right? In terms of my study plan, what can you advise? And the team is always happy to advise you. And second point on that is weekly target. Hmm? Sometimes when you create a plan is just as beautiful as looking at it, and if you are not using it to achieve results, it's a useless plan. Okay, but when you set weekly target for yourself, it actually drives you, right? Where do you want to be in this course by this week? Oh, this next 2 weeks, do you have a particular course you are focusing on because you just want to be done with it before you move to the next? For some of you, you are not closing a particular course before you move to another. You are probably looking at it bucket by bucket. You cover this bucket in this course, you move to a bucket in another course. So create targets, what works for you on weekly basis, not monthly. Weekly basis. In fact, if possible, break your weekly target to daily targets, right? And consistency, which is my third point, actually do matter, because at the end of the day, it is not about you creating a weekly target and you meet or even exceed it this week, and the next week you're falling off, right? So consistency actually do matter. Remember that this session, we are talking about those who needs to pass their exam this diet. Whether, okay, let's even say this is not your first attempt, but you are writing this diet, you want to pass it this diet, this is actually for you. You have to be consistent with your strategy and your targets, and in achieving those targets. And then the last point is prioritizing difficult subjects. I would modify this, a bit, really, to say, while you prioritize difficult subjects, you actually need to strike a balance. And taking professional students, for example, where sometimes they're always drowned, they're always carried away by, oh, I need to read my SFM, or I need to practice my group account in SBR and all of that. And then you neglect audit or case study because maybe those ones, the syllabus is not that bulky. And at the end of the day, you go into a diet where those subjects you have neglected becomes the control paper for that diet. And that is why it is very, very important for you to try and cover the syllabus, prioritizing the difficult subjects now, right? Not a course, right? And at the same time, create a balance. Ensure you are carrying all your courses along. Don't be carried away with, oh, you still have a lot to cover in SFM, or you still have so many important topics to cover in SFM, and because of that you neglect audit and assurance completely. Or some of you, maybe it's PM or MI, right? You have process costing, you have budgeting in PM to cover, and because of that you are not even opening your audit or taxation. You need to strike a balance. You think about having children, right? So you need to carry everyone along. Oh, where is this? Where is this? And you want to ensure everybody is fine. So it is not for you to pay or to give all your time to a particular subject. And let me be very practical here. We have seen students who will go on to score 90, 80 in some subjects and score 40, 50, 30 in some subject, and they're not able to pass all their papers. We have seen it time without number. And at the same time, we have also seen students who will score 50, 60, 50, 60, 50, 60 something, and then pass all the subjects. We have seen that time without number. The difference between those two students is just that one is able to carry all the courses along and is creating a balance. It's not even a matter of someone is brilliant, right? It's actually about having a strategy and making it work. So creating a study plan is very, very key. Very, very key. So what you need to do before I leave this slide is look at the point and ask yourself, where exactly are you with creating and implementing a very smart study plan for this current diet? You need to ask yourself. While you're asking and reflecting, I will be moving to the next slide. And the next slide says, study with ICAN syllabus and ICAN the right resources. Okay, so now we have a syllabus document which we started navigating, a new syllabus from last diet which we started navigating. And for some of you that have been speaking, that we've been having conversation regarding this syllabus, one thing I've always been emphasizing on is the syllabus, the syllabus, the syllabus. Because no matter what the examiners will bring forward to you in the exam is what is in the syllabus. Nothing outside the syllabus will come. Right? And while you are using the syllabus, it is also very important to do what? To look at examinable areas, examinable areas, examinable areas. And this is where you begin to act and study very smart, right? Think about a resource that MPT has, right? Quite a number of you on this call would have seen it. If you haven't seen it, you have been missing a lot. The Pathfinder course chart, which is one of the great material we have as a center that actually helps students to navigate past questions. Now, beyond helping you to navigate past questions, that material actually help you to see a very good picture of how important each topic is. And that material is not telling you to concentrate on those topics alone and leave the rest. It is telling you that cover your syllabus, but there are topics here that you need to revisit because you can probably see that these topics are tested every diet. You can see that this topic, it has a pattern, maybe two diets, another two diets, and then you're able to study that and say, okay, maybe this was tested last diet. It's very likely this diet, I'm not writing it off, but maybe the probability is just 50-50, probably lower than that, right? But there are subjects that you can see from the Pathfinder course chart that it has a 90% chance of coming out, right? When you see such probability, does that not tell you that you should get ready for this in your exam? Take example of the topic I took some levels last weekend, financial statement analysis. And the first thing I did with the student was to revisit the past question chart, the Pathfinder course chart, and ask them, with what you are seeing in this Pathfinder course chart, are you expecting this topic or not? The answer is yes, they are expecting it. There are quite a number of topics that you can look at like that, and you're able to create an expectation. Of course, it's not for you to create, like I've said, it's not for you to develop expectation and neglect, and focus on those alone and neglect the rest, right? That would not always be a good plan. Okay. And then one other point is track topics covered. As a center, we have set the standard for you, and you must also bring it down to your level. What do I mean by we've set standard for this for you? We have what we call MPT student course tracker, where as a center, one of the things we have communicated as our standard to students is syllabus coverage. And what we've done is to hold ourselves accountable, or to present ourselves to stay or remain accountable to you by giving you access to that student course tracker so that you can see as we are ticking off each topic throughout the diet. Think about us doing that as a center. As a student who needs to pass your exam at first attempt, you need to create those tracker for yourself. Right? You can easily copy it from that course tracker and be ticking off. I've studied, I've attended this lecture for this topic. I've also gone through it. I've also reviewed past questions on it. It looks like I'm good on this topic. I tick it off. The rest remains during my revision. So that I will revisit it again to be sure I'm ready. Right? So it is very important. And then last point on this is avoid unnecessary materials. Avoid unnecessary materials. Now, using the right material is something that has helped students, especially when it comes to passing this particular diet you're about to write, passing your first attempt, right? Using material, ICAN material will always be your primary material, no matter what. Don't let anyone tell you that because a question was lifted in one material, or because you saw a question that was lifted in one material, you should now neglect any other material and focus on that material. Who told you that this your diet or the diet you're about to write, they'll go and lift question from the same material? In fact, sometimes when they lift a question, when you see such, right? When you see such, who told you that that material you're looking at did not even lift that question from another material that is probably ICAN related? So we have the visibility. Sometimes students don't see it. Wherever your fellow students are telling you that, oh, this is where the question came from, you probably want to conclude that that's where the question originated from. Meanwhile, the fact that you are seeing the question there does not mean that the question originated from there. So at the end of the day, what really matters the most, right, is for you to stay dedicated, use the right material, and avoid unnecessary materials. I was speaking to a student uh, recently, who has also been struggling, to pass. And I said, from what we've discussed so far, one of the things I can see as an issue is that you are using a lot of things. The students, of course, subscribe for a physical center, and then maybe some things are not working, now looking forward to joining a virtual lecture. And I said, sometimes when you merge all of these things together, it creates confusion for you, distractions, too many information. Do your due diligence. Once you've selected the right sources, the right center to use, the right material to use, stay with it. With your past questions, you are good to go. And that's the last point I needed to tell you about this particular slide. And then before I move to the next slide, take a look at it and also still ask yourself, where am I with all of these points, really? Where am I? Do I even have the syllabus document? Maybe you don't even have the syllabus document. Please, as we are speaking, those that have the syllabus document, please help us to forward it to the group so that those that does not even know what we are talking about when we say the syllabus document, so that they can see it right now on the group. You are just reading. You don't even know what we are calling the syllabus document. Please, guys, as the session is ongoing, help us forward it to the platforms so that everyone would see it. Okay, so for other areas as well, ask yourself, how are you doing? You need to have some things to take away, because some of you, is not everything that is on this screen now that you're doing correctly. Pick some things and go and make amends, go and correct it, and up your game. Remember, the goal is to pass this diet. You are writing this diet and you're passing, right? So moving on is third point, which is practice past questions. See, even though what I've discussed in the last slide is focusing more on understanding your syllabus, using the right material, and understanding the concepts, which is very, very important. And let me tell you one important thing about understanding the concepts, right? Or approaching your exam, fully understanding the topic to be able to deal with anything. You are ready and you are not leaving chance for any form of gambling. You are telling yourself that you are not in for, people are saying there are control papers. You are not in for those. You are passing this diet, right? And the only way to do that is to fully understand the concepts. When I say understanding concepts, You are not just leaving things to, as I'm solving this question, ICAN should just bring this one out. You are not doing that. You are just understanding it so that anything ICAN brings to your table, you are able to do justice to it. While that is important, it is also important. Part of the strategy is also to understand the nature, because foundation level is different from skills level. Skills level is different from professional level. So it is very important that in fact, the courses are also different. SFM structure is different from F structure, different from B's law structure. So practicing past questions for each course is super important. You get to understand the structure better. You get to understand what the examiners usually expect for that particular course, and you can develop the right strategy. Now, look at it. My first point on the screen says identify exam pattern. I've talked about this earlier. It is very important. Our Pathfinder course chart will always help you to do that. It's there. At a glance, you can already see this topic. It's looking like it's every diet. I cannot joke with this. This topic, it looks like no regular pattern, but I can see that it's quite frequent. This topic, I can see that. And a course like PSAF, there are so many topics, although some of it have now been removed from the new syllabus, but there are quite a number of topics that are not even examined. Areas like public finance, you get to see it every diet. And it is important that those areas you cover them very well. But areas that you see that they don't examine, you can just read them, and understand them, just in case you see a question on them and you are not, you are not surprised. Okay. So then another point is understanding those key topics. I've talked about this as well. SFM guys, I'll always use you guys as an example, maybe PM guys and MI as well. You probably want to not go into SFM exam without understanding merger and acquisition. Do you know why? It's very frequent from the past question, and it sits in the heart of strategic financial management. Right? So same thing with all other topics. Taxation or advanced taxation, you probably don't want to walk into the exam hall without understanding oil and gas taxation or companies income tax, right? So understand key topics. And then third point is improve speed and accuracy. And I'm going to dwell on this again because it is super important. And then the last point as well, I'm also still going to dwell on it, which is stimulate exam conditions. And this is, I'm particularly going to emphasize on this with mock exams. Okay. But take a look at it. What is working for you right now and what is not working for you? Do that reflection and ensure you pick something from here before we move to the next slide. Okay. Moving on is another point which I called master exam techniques, and this is a very big deal, right? And this is where and probably the next slide is where a lot of students get to miss it. And for someone who wants to pass this diet, for you that you don't want to repeat those papers, you don't want to probably play with this. So we said effective exam skills is actually key. The first point says carefully read your questions, and it helps you to avoid mistakes. A lot of time. I don't want to use a funny example. I wanted to use an example of some instructions regarding lecture link and all of that. But trust me, you want to understand your questions. I always advise students that go and read, the way ICAN will structure the question and give you a lot of information and then say required, A, this, B, this, and that, right? Go and read that first. Go and read it. Just read it. What is the requirement? When you read the requirement, now go and read the question. When you read the question, come back to read the requirement. That requirement, read it again. And actually spend time to read it again and ask yourself, what do they really want? Okay, now I know what they want. In my head, this is what they want, and this is the road to provide what they want. You need to actually calm and answer the question on top of your head before you start doing justice to your, to it in your paper. Not understanding the question means you can spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes doing the wrong thing. And you don't want to get it wrong. Those who pass their exams at first attempt, right? They don't get it wrong. You want to get it right. Of course, this is not to say you must score 100, because that's why pass mark is not 100. Pass mark is 50. So we are not saying everything must be done to perfection, but we are just saying that you need to be right in most of the questions, so that at the end of the day you stay above average. Of course, this session is not preparing you for average, so you need to get it right. Now, excuse me. Carefully read your questions, like I've said. Ask yourself, do I understand what the examiner is asking? I was going through a question with both skills and professional students the other time, and then the question says, calculate WACC using the capital asset pricing model. Roman figure 1, capital asset pricing model. Roman figure 2, Gordon growth model. And then the first question I asked those students was, is capital asset pricing model a method of calculating WACC? The answer was no. And the answer is no. The capital asset pricing model is used to calculate cost of equity. So if you allow that capital asset pricing model to be, to overwhelm you and make you feel like that is what you need to do, right? When you get there, you will think you've gotten to the final answer. But that question actually requires you to calculate WACC. Meaning, when you use capital asset pricing model to get your cost of equity, you still need to go ahead to get the cost of all other sources of funds that they use, so that you can now come back and consolidate to calculate your WACC. So, you see this small example, a lot of people get it wrong in questions like that, and you don't want to get it wrong. Remember, you are passing, so you cannot get it wrong. You cannot misinterpret question. So spend time, few minutes, to ensure you understand the requirement. And trust me, the moment you've prepared, because don't forget, you created a plan, you are working with the syllabus, you've covered everything, you've reviewed past questions. Exam technique, once you get it right, you're good. And then number 2 point, very key, it says clearly present your answer, your clearly structure your answer, right? Basically, that's the point there. So what we are saying here is that a lot of time, even when you know what the examiner is asking you to do, a lot of people actually fail due to poor presentation. Poor presentation. Well, I have seen students who understand and know fully well what to do, but come and see presentation, nothing to so tech. So you want to be sure, you want to be intentional about how you are presenting your answers. That's why sometimes in my class, I demonstrate with students to say, this is what we want to achieve. I remember that same question on WACC. The first thing I presented was the WACC table, because that is what the question requires, so that I will not forget that the main thing I'm solving in this question is WACC. Every other thing should now come under it as workings. My workings should also be structured with proper headings. Calculation of cost of equity, structured. When I'm done, calculation of cost of debt. When I'm done, calculation of maybe cost of preference share. There might be sub workings under each of those before I will now come back to consolidate the main table. Structuring your answers the right way enhances your chances to excel in this exam. As someone who wants to pass in this diet, you don't want to get that part wrong as well. You don't want to be presenting something. Remember, you're a professional accountant. You cannot be I was one of my class. I was talking about how if you ask a production manager to present a budget to you, You will probably see numbers flying here and there. But when an accountant presents a budget or a financial model to you, you will see that this guy understands numbers. You will see the beauty in the presentation, that this person appreciates numbers, right? It needs to show in your exam as well. And then the third point says show calculation support for your response. And of course, this is very key. I've highlighted this as well. And manage time per question is very crucial. Oh, this is another issue. This is another reason why a lot of people fail, right? Because you are just sleeping on one question. And on this part, I will always tell students that it is not a must you start with compulsory question. It is not a must. You can actually start with the last question. You can actually start from the middle or anywhere really. In fact, there is no one way to it. What really matters the most is look at a question that is, the one you are almost trusting your ability to get the maximum mark allotted to it, right? It is possible that it is even a 15-mark question and you can see that this question is looking like bonus to me. Start with it. And while you are starting with it, be watching time. You probably do not want to spend 1 hour on a 20-mark question. You are already in trouble. Spend 1 hour on a 20-mark question. Then you need to watch your back. Okay, so you need to allocate time and manage time per question. That's my whole point. Sometimes, if compulsory question is looking like it is very easy for you, there is no crime in starting with compulsory question. All you need to do is watch your time. The moment you get to a point where it looks like you are spending a lot of time in this compulsory question, you can actually leave it and move on and come back when you are done with others that to your satisfaction. You can come back. And just to wrap this up, the more questions you attempt, the better. It creates a proper safety margin for you. The more questions, if possible, attempt all the questions you have been asked to attempt. If out of 7 questions you need to attempt 5, it is always safer to attempt 5 questions, because for every questions you attempt, there is a very likely there is a big chance that you will get some marks from them. And this is one thing that is very, very key. Okay, so you need to take all of this point and reflect again. Remember the stage we are. We are not doing this at the beginning of the diet. We are not doing this at the end of the diet. It was deliberate. A time that you've navigated lecture to certain points for you to reflect, ask yourself where you are, and re-strategize. So you look at this point again and ask yourself, are you really getting yourself ready? Okay, so then the next slide we're going to be looking at is going to dwell on some of the points I said I'm going to dwell on, and it is on mock exams, right? So one of the points we highlighted earlier says under point number 3 says, the fourth point under number 3 says simulate exam condition, and that is what we are going to be using this slide to talk about, because it is extremely important. And think about someone who wants to pass for the first time. This session is for you, right? You don't want to go and learn your lesson in the exam hall by going, and then you will say, oh, this diet, you went to learn your lesson so that next diet you will now get it right. No, you are not in that category. You want to pass in your first attempt, or if you have written it before, you want to pass this diet. So mock exam is how you can simulate the real exam and ask yourself a realistic question at the end of the day. Am I really ready for this exam? If it's looking like I'm not ready, then I need to sit up, right? So fortunately, we are a center that pays so much attention and put in so much resources to conduct mock exam, right? So our tutors have been well, we have been well, uh, guided as to how we need to align our goal to know what the student needs is when it comes to mock exam. All of us are on the same page that It is not about the question. It is not about the topic being tested. It is about expectation. So our tutors also review the Pathfinder course chart and ask, oh, based on what I'm seeing last diet and previous diet, what is likely this diet? And they do that. They use that to simulate and say, this topic, I must set it in my mock exam. This topic, I must set it in my mock exam. This topic, I must set it in my mock exam. So when we do that as tutors, we are putting ourselves in your shoe when we are setting the mock exam. So that when we do that and simulate and say these are the topics we want to test, it does not matter where the question is coming from. We just want to ensure that that topic is tested in your mock exam. Right? It could even be your past question. We just lift it. It could be anywhere. It could be ACC. We just want to ensure that that topic is well tested to let you know that this topic, beware. Right? And another thing is, and there is no barrier, there is no limitation when it comes to participating in a mock exam. It is virtual. All we do is ask students to be very disciplined and be ready to participate from anywhere. It's time monitored. Start time will be communicated. End time will be communicated. A link to a submission portal will be shared. Once that time reach, there will be announcement. Everybody to submit. Once another 15 minutes expires for submission, we lock the portal and you will not be able to submit. So it is actually a proper mock exam. The only thing that is required of you is get ready for that mock exam and then bring your, we are all adults. So it's not for you to see a mock exam and you are busy searching for where MPT got the question from. Do justice to the question. Are we together? So give me some terms if you're following me, really, just to be sure I'm not alone in this session. Okay, I can see a lot of reactions. I can see hands, which shows that we are really together. Okay. Another point I need to mention is time management. Now, time management, we've talked about time management, but how do you really get yourself ready for time management for someone who is attempting for the first time? Because you haven't written the exam before. Trust me, mock exam is also something that can help you with time management. Because by the time you preach time management to yourself, in addition to the preaching we are doing here, and you go on in that mock exam to give your best for 3 hours, you can already tell where you are with time management. And you will know whether you need to up your game seriously or you need to just adjust a bit and then you're fine. Right? So time management is also something you need to bear in mind when you're preparing for our mock exam. It's very key. And this is so important because ICAN exam is such that time will never be enough. Time will never be enough. For some courses, it might look like it's enough, but trust me, time is not always enough. And when you feel like you are done too early, you are probably rushing out. Don't rush out. See, some people are going to win ICAN prize. We have a lot of our tutors who are ICAN prize winners. We have produced quite a number of students that are prize winners. So there is opportunity for you to win prize as well. Prize winners have one common attribute. They don't rush out of that exam hall. They don't rush out of that exam hall. They will even the one that they've done, they will revisit it again and probably patch and add more points. They want to maximize the mark. It is a common attribute of prize winners. ICAN prize winners. And you can be in that table. Trust me. Okay? So it is very key. Time management. Ensure that this is embedded in the mock exam when you are preparing for it. And I hope we are together. I don't know where you are on this point, but ensure you reflect properly. Ask yourself, have I started preparing for MPT mock exam? In fact, very soon we're going to be discussing over the weekend, but what you can do is ask yourself, leave ICAN exam for now. See it as if you are preparing for MPT mock exam, since it's going to come first before ICAN exam. See it as if you are actually preparing for MPT mock exam. Go to our e-library in the Google Drive. Go and see the mock exams that we've set over the past how many diets. It will tell you that we actually we have a very standardized procedure when it comes to mock exam. Right? So that's basically it when it comes to mock exam and your participation. And as a center, we even have a policy that encourages you to or ensure that you participate in mock exam. And Another point which I need to emphasize for you, before we, bring the session to a close, is final preparation for the exam. We've talked about, things that you need to do, your preparation, and so many things. But another thing is, after the mock exam, what happens? Because the way we have structured it is to ensure you have time between our mock exam and ICAN exam. So after the mock exam, you are now reflecting. Where am I? Does it look like I'm ready, or it looks like I have a long way to go? Those are key questions you need to start asking yourself, right? And that is the point where you need to begin to work with your summary notes. Either summary notes have been provided by MPT, or that you've gotten from other sources, or that you have even written by yourself. Because for some of you, as you are attending lecture or reading, you are probably making your summary notes. Whatever summary note that you have at hand, that is the best time to start working with your summary notes, right? Concentrate on key areas to solidify knowledge. It is very key. Those are times that you need to now pay attention to, the pattern, the key topics, and the ones that you are lagging behind, that looks like this showed up in the mock exam and I couldn't do anything. Go and, revisit that topic. And even your mock exam can be revisited. You can maybe you didn't do well in the mock exam, and we had the debrief and provided, because we normally provide feedback, right? And from the feedback, it's poor. It tells you that even before the exam, you can reattempt the mock exam in your on your own, and ensure you are comfortable, to say, okay, it looks like I'll do better now, and then I revise and get ready for the exam. And then one important point outside reading that people don't emphasize on enough is actually for you to ensure you rest, you eat well, and rest well before exam to improve concentration. We have seen it time without number where people prepare well for their exam and they carry them away from that exam, probably because they fainted, or because something has happened and they're not able to write the exam and all of that. They'll probably, not able to write the diet, and that's automatic comeback next diet. You don't want to get yourself in that situation where you've put in all the time and money and all the resources, really, and then health will now be the issue here. And sometimes it's not even about health. Remember, we're talking to someone who wants to pass in a very single attempt, right? And you're probably writing 4, 5, 3, 3, 4, 5 papers, or even 6 papers. We have students that are writing 6 papers. Think about, you need to write an exam on Monday, 2 papers. You need to write another 2 papers on Wednesday, and maybe another 2 papers on Thursday, or one on Thursday. It tells you that you need maximum strength to write the exam. It's not about preparation. It's not about intelligence or brilliance. You need strength, physical strength. Because have you experienced a situation where you are writing at the first 1 hour, your excuse me, your hand is so strong that you can write so well, but in the second or third hour, you see diminishing return, right? Where your hands are now weak, or you are now tired, and then you begin to sleep. Those are things you don't want to get yourself. Those are situations you don't want to see yourself, right? Remember, you are passing. So eating well, sleeping well, we ensure you are ready. Like this exam, you are going with your normal strength and everything is just looking fine, right? So this last point, ask yourself, with all other points, hope I'm not doing every other thing and I'm not resting well. You are reading back to back to back to back to back. It's good, but watch it. It is very, very key. And then just bringing it to a close, is another point here that says, with everything that we have been talking about, right now, exam is here. Like, exam is here. Let's say you have 1 week to exam. At that point, even throughout the process of preparation, you actually need to wear that mindset of success. The point here says you need to stay disciplined. In fact, you need discipline from the beginning of the diet to the end. It is discipline that you need to attend all the lectures and ensure you are not missing lectures. It is discipline that you need to ensure you are sticking to your reading plan. It is discipline and consistency that you need to be able to say, this is the time I need to read, and you are sticking to it. This is the time I need to practice past questions, and you are staying on it. You need to stay disciplined. You need to stay consistent, and avoid distractions as well, and then be confident in your ability to support your preparation, your performance during the exam. You need all of that, and this is what we've presented as mindset of success. Very, very key, right? And then on the last note, um, we said passing ICAN at first attempt is achievable with the right strategy and preparation. Hmm? Stay committed to your goal for best results. We're talking about results, excellent, passing all the papers. The result that will come out, and then the next place you are thinking about is go on MPT platform to go and shout, and then go on LinkedIn to go and make noise. To achieve results like that, you actually need to stay on top of your game, right? From working out a study plan to all of the points that we have discussed, down to having a mindset for success, you need everything to be able to pass at first attempt. And most importantly, we said, wear your hustle spirit during each exam. And I'm going to emphasize on this a bit and bring my presentation to a close. Sometimes you go inside the exam hall and it's not really funny what is being presented to you. You've given your best during the preparation process and you think you've tried your best, but you got inside the exam hall. In fact, maybe you wrote papers yesterday and it was really smooth, but today it becomes something else that you're wondering, which topics are these coming from? Or am I in the right exam hall? Or where exactly is ICAN coming from this time for this paper? See, all you need to do is calm yourself down and ask yourself, am I coming back to write this? The answer should be no. For the answer to be no, you need to hustle. You are wearing that spirit of someone who is not giving up, who is ready to give it all to ensure that you stay above average. And all that you always need in this case is to calm yourself down and say, oh, this question, let me even ask, which topic are they examining? Let me try to understand that. From which topic? Okay, I've read this topic. Let me try to relate it. And then you must do something reasonable. By the time you keep, and of course, in such situation, you probably do not even have time to use the restroom. So if people are calling you left and right, I remembered my PM exam. It was a perfect example of this hustle spirit. And that is where I started using the word hustle with students. When I wrote my PM exam, was the most difficult exam I wrote in my diet throughout my ICAN journey. I was fortunate to be one of several, to be ICAN prize winners several times. And I can tell you that PM was my most difficult paper. And I told myself instantly that, am I going to come back for this paper? And the answer was clearly no. And if the answer was clearly no, all I needed to do was to calm myself, start approaching the questions. Because people were not able to write, it was somehow. People were calling me because they saw, okay, nobody is writing, but this guy is busy writing. And then everybody started calling. I did not even listen. Like I could, it was just as if breeze was flying past my ear. But that concentration, the fear to fail. So you need to wear that spirit to hustle, and trust me, by the time you bring that in, there won't be anything like this paper is the control, and then control will now make you to fail some papers and all of that. And that is all you need to excel in your papers and pass in a single sitting, right? We will definitely make this available. And then we'll probably also attend to one or two questions, or because of our time, I think we can actually share the slide and we can also go on the platforms to um, answer questions, because this is also going to be on YouTube, I think, and we probably want to keep the time as short as possible. Thank you so much, everyone. That comes to an end of my presentation. Isaiah, you have the floor. Isaiah, are you there? Okay, so I don't know, maybe Isaiah is having network issue, but what we can do is I don't know. Let me see. Oh, okay, 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 okay. Yeah, Isaiah, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you very much, Simeon. I mean, that was such a well-packed and comprehensive presentation, right? I think the key takeaway from that presentation is that it is possible for you to pass your ICAN exam at the first attempt, right? Um, the only thing you need to do is just apply the right strategy, and with preparation, it can happen. So, guys, a lot was said, right? A lot was said, from the pitfalls, common pitfalls that students experience, poor planning, poor time management, not practicing past questions, up to the right strategies we need to apply in our preparation, basically. So, I mean, we understand as a tuition center that it's beyond knowledge dished out in classrooms, right? There are some other things that you need to understand, which is around your preparation, right? And that's why we're having sessions like this. So please, guys, let's not see this session as one of those conversations or discussions you have, right? See it as a sort of mirror that would help you see your reality and see what wrong you have been doing, how you have been preparing wrongly, right? And try to correct. I mean, we are still very much in the early preparation as phase of the ICAN exam. So we still have like say 6 weeks of lecture, 6, 7 weeks of lecture. So there's still much time for you to correct the hand of the clock, right? So let's digest all of these things that have been discussed. And the good thing is that we intend putting this on our YouTube channel. So it's for you to go over, watch again, take out strategies and try to implement those strategies and see how it would help you to turn things around. So thank you very much, guys, once again. I think Simeon was saying we can move this conversation to the group, right, Simeon? Or do we need to?
Yes, because of time early. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
So yeah, so I think at this point, we can use our various platforms to ask questions, and we'll be happy to respond to those questions, right? Okay, so at this point, I think we can call this session to a close. So thank you so much, guys, for spending your evening with us. And I hope we learned one or two things from this session, and let's try to implement it as we go back to our um, various okay. All right. Bye, guys.